Representing the business of boxing, ladies and gentlemen, let's hear it for Manager Marty!
Thank you. You're far too kind. Thank you very much.
Representing the business of boxing, ladies and gentlemen, let's hear it for Manager Marty!
Thank you. You're far too kind. Thank you very much.
Representing the business of boxing, ladies and gentlemen, let's hear it for Manager Marty!
Thank you. You're far too kind. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, members of the jury, members of the Roll the Tape film crew, welcome to another episode of Roll the Tape podcast with Manager Marty. I'm your host, Manager Marty. So glad to be here this morning. I missed each and every last one of you. I welcome all of you to this live broadcast. We need answers. Oh, boy. I love boxing. And I think you all know that by now. Double salute and welcome to all of the members of the channel, supervisors of the Roll the Tape film crew. We are live and in living color. I welcome all of you who don't like me, who don't agree with me, who insult me in my comments section. I welcome you as well. If you're watching the replay of this live, I welcome you. Before I get on with the show, you know I first have to put the plug in for the sponsors of this channel, Quartler Manis LLC. They are personal injury lawyers in the states of Pennsylvania and New Jersey. Their phone number reads at the bottom of your screen, 267-457-4201. Their website is wefightwewin.com. They do fight and they do win. I also have to plug myself in it because, as you all know, Rachel Donier, the wife of Nonito Donier, Hall of Fame boxer, who just fought recently, by the way, told y'all that I was broke. And I confess, I am. But like I told Rachel, when we went back and forth, I'd rather be broke than to be broke and broken. And with that being said, as you all know, it's no secret, I am the most controversial, most insulted, most imitated, but least paid YouTuber in the boxing community. And with that, at the bottom of your screen, you see it, the Cash App, $ Manager Marty. All contributions are greatly appreciated because it does help with continuing our efforts here to provide education and entertainment for all of you when it comes to producing and publishing quality content with substance. And the proof of my content having quality with substance is the fact that your favorite content creators, they come over here and see me. Your favorite content creators, they come over here and they learn something about the business and the sport of boxing that they did not know prior to engaging with my content. And there are other content creators who come over to the family barbecue with their own plate and aluminum foil just to take the food that I'm serving here back over to their platform and use my talking points and hijack my quotes and the things that I say. But with all of that, your contributions are greatly necessary. In fact, I encourage you to super chat, super sticker, and even super thanks on this live broadcast because the air fryer needs to warm up today. Now, enough with the hugs, handshakes, and Valentine's Day cards. Hey, Bill! I thought I'd start the show off with that. That was for Bill Haney. I have some questions I want to ask about this brawl that took place yesterday in New York, one of the states that Devin Haney reside in. So it's basically home for him. I have some questions I want to ask. But I also want to paint a picture of what should happen moving forward between Devin Haney and Brian Norman Jr. Now, we have some interesting professional boxing taking place tonight. Double salute to Jab Queen Boxing. She's a member of the channel, supervisor of the Roller Tape Film Crew. Double salute to my guy, Jay Sir. He's also a member of the channel, supervisor of the Roller Tape Film Crew. And of course, you know, the man with the master plan who's always first in the classroom. And that's my main man, Pots and Pans, day one supporter, my guy, all things. He's a member of the channel, supervisor of the Roll the Tape Film Crew, so double salute to him as well. Now, enough again with the hugs, handshakes, and Valentine's Day cards. We have some good fights coming up tonight. Don't we all? Women's boxing, the entire card. Shout out and double salute to Jake Paul and MVP Promotions. He's doing a tremendous job. Him and his business partner, the co-founder of MVP Promotions, and all of the workers and the laborers that don't get the publications or the recognition that work behind the scenes that represent MVP Promotions, they're doing a phenomenal job over there. Salute to them and double salute to MVP Promotions. Now, we have Alicia Baumgartner, who will be competing tonight in her first fight with a newly hired trainer, because you know Alicia Baumgartner, she resides in the state of Texas now. And to my understanding, she's dating the former Dallas Cowboy football player, Des Bryant. But that's none of our business. The bottom line is she resides in Texas and she has a new trainer now. One of the most recognizable names as a professional boxing trainer in the state of Texas, the former trainer of Errol Spence Jr., and I'm talking about Derek James. Alicia Baumgartner has hired Derek James as her new trainer, and she is competing against an opponent and defending her titles against an opponent who doesn't have the experience that she has, but also only has one knockout out of, I think, 11 or 12 professional fights. So, of course, Alicia Baumgartner is expected to win. But for her to be able to get the opportunity to gain exposure of this magnitude on this platform of Netflix under this banner of MVP Promotions is good business. We have Savannah Marshall, who competed in one fight in MMA, of course, a year ago, but been out of the ring, boxing ring that is, for 2 consecutive years. But we know the pedigree of a fighter that she is. She will also compete tonight against Shadeja Green. Yes, Shadeja started late in boxing. She has skills, and of course, she has one loss on her professional boxing record against Franchon Cruz. Now, in my personal opinion, I believe that she beat and was robbed in the fight against Franchon Cruz. And I have to say this because this is as equally as important. If you didn't know, Franchon Cruz is with the Snack program. I figure I let you all in on that. If you didn't know, Franchon Cruz won fights against both of these competitors, Shadeja Green and Savannah Marshall. They both lost against Franchon Cruz officially. That's going to be a good fight, believe it or not. Now, the last time Shadeja Green fought was in November of 2024. But it's going to be a good fight. I really do believe that that fight is definitely 50-50. I also believe that the fight between Katie Taylor and Amanda Serrano is also 50-50 for more obvious reasons. And they are the main event tonight. And it's happening live in living color on Netflix. And all you need is a subscription to Netflix. And obviously, they have multiple tiers that you can play for as far as the multiple tiers of membership for Netflix. But the cheapest is $7 and what, 99 cents? So for $7.99, not only will you be exposed to the content on Netflix, their on-demand feature, but also live women's boxing tonight. Katie Taylor versus Amanda Serrano in their third and probably final fight. Now, we know that both of these women are over the age of 35, 36. I think Serrano is about 36. I also believe that Katie Taylor is 39 years of age. And they both have different paths and journeys that they travel to get to where they are today. But nonetheless, this is their third fight. And both fights, previous to the fight that's going to happen tonight, very controversial. Could have went either way by most boxing fans' perspective. So there's some things that we need to address. Number one, what do both of these fighters need to do to come out victorious tonight? Well, let's start with Katie Taylor. She has 2 wins over Amanda Serrano, though be it that they are controversial wins, but the fights were close enough for her to get the decision. But in this fight, she cannot lead with her head, which caused several different headbutts unnecessarily in the last 2 fights, particularly the last fight. And I think that if she move her head and keep her head off of the line, the punches that Serrano landed flush that hurt her before in 2 fights back to back, she won't have to deal with that type of pressure. But she can't lead with her head. I'm sure the referee in this fight will give the pre-bout instructions in the locker room as customary for referees to do. And I'm sure whoever the referee is going to emphasize no headbutt. Is going to emphasize not leading with the head. But Katie Taylor cannot lead with her head in this fight to get on the inside, to protect her chin. She is back with her father, who basically started her off in boxing and been with her, with the exception of the last few fights for the last few years. She has now restored and rekindled a relationship and fellowship back with her original trainer, which is her father. Now, is that going to be to her advantage tonight? We shall see. But she's going to have to improve on certain defensive techniques. She's also going to have to land more effective punches in this fight. She landed some good punches in the last two fights, particularly the last fight, going down the stretch in the later rounds. But she's going to have to land those effective punches a little earlier on to bank those rounds in the bank so that it don't have to get to a place where she's possibly going to be behind on the cards, or she's going to need a knockout, or she's going to have to exert more energy in the later rounds, which will cause her to have to reserve more energy in the earlier rounds and reduce her punch output. So she's going to have to be consistent with landing more effective punches in the earlier rounds in this fight. Now, there's somebody in my comment section that made a reference about the topics that I speak on. Now, I find it intriguing that the platforms that you're talking about, I don't know who the platforms that you're speaking of, that you saw me on. You said you saw me on those platforms from 2 years ago or something. Whatever platform you're referring to, all them platforms have come over here, all of them, and have gotten some form of information about the sport or the business of boxing from me that they've learned. But end of the day, I talk about topics that people want me to talk about. And then I talk about topics I want to talk about. And this is a topic that I do want to talk about. In fact, the topics that you see in my title, it's one I want to talk about. It's what other people want me to talk about. Because we need answers. And hopefully by the day we get them. But, Rich Boxing, I'm glad that you are here. Because you ain't going to find this nowhere else. Oh, man. I love when I make people laugh. But the point that I'm making in that is Katie Taylor's going to have to be a little bit more impressive in this fight. Because she got hurt in the two previous fights. Which now segue me into making a point about Serrano. Serrano has to learn how to close the show when she has her fighters hurt, her opponents hurt. She had Katie Taylor hurt several times between the last two fights, and she did not close the show. In fact, she let Katie Taylor sneak out the back door and sneak out the round, not even getting knocked down. In this third fight, she is going to have to do a little bit more we're closing the show out if she hurts Katie Taylor. Because at this point, she realizes that going to the judges' scorecards may not be in her favor unless she's up by several rounds. Another thing that Serrano is going to have to be concerned with is the scar tissue over her right eyebrow, which is where she received that massive cut from a headbutt in the last fight. I believe that the ringside physician did a terrible job in that fight by allowing that fight to continue, looking at the severity of that cut that Amanda Serrano suffered. He should have stopped the fight, in my professional opinion. But he didn't. But she's going to have to move her head off the line as well and not stand straight up with her chin when it comes down to Katie Taylor advancing her. Another thing that Serrano is going to have to do, she's going to have to be the one to prevent Katie Taylor from rushing in with her head down. In other words, that she's going to need to throw more stiffer, stronger, effective jabs and get behind her stick. And if Katie Taylor still want to rush in with her head down after receiving those jabs, all she got to do is pivot to the side, throw that uppercut straight up the middle. It's very simple. And hopefully, she made these adjustments in training camp with the new training regimen and strength and conditioning coach that she has in her camp now. These women are going to get it on tonight. It's a 50-50 fight. Obviously, Katie Taylor won the first two officially, even though it was close. But I believe that Amanda Serrano will win this fight tonight by unanimous decision. I do not believe they're going to fight for a fourth time, but I do believe that tonight will be Amanda Serrano's night. But this fight is a 50-50 fight. And Katie Taylor has what it takes to win it. Now that we have that out the way. Hey, Bill! Y'all gonna need security, Bill. Not homeboy security. Not a security guard who isn't properly trained. Not a security guard who's not armed. Not a security guard who is uncertified and unlicensed. No, you're going to have to pay for legitimate, certified, licensed executive protection. Because this is the second or third time, matter of fact, the third time that I've watched people that were supposed to protect the Haneys do a terrible job. It's the third time thus far. The first time was when Bernard Hopkins was close enough to even shove Bill Haney with his shoulder in Bill Haney's backyard where he rests his head at in Las Vegas. He live in Vegas, right? He was able to get shoved and pushed by Bernard Hopkins while Bill Haney had security with him. Where they do that at? Second time I saw a security breach that was supposed to provide executive protection for the Haneys was at the press conference in the weigh-in between Ryan Garcia and Devin Haney. Y'all remember that? Y'all remember when Bernard Hopkins took his hand and was pointing his hand in the face of their security, the Haney security, and then mugged him. Y'all remember that? The security officer. Y'all remember that, right? Second time I saw the security breach. And then, of course, yesterday was the third time. Hey, Bill! Your security and executive protection shouldn't be on the ground, homie. Nobody should be able to shove, push, overpower your security guard, man. I'm just trying to figure out, how was the security guard's head down in the first place? When the security guard head was up the whole time after grabbing both Brian Norman Jr. by the shirt and Brian Norman Sr. by the shirt at the same exact time, even ripping Brian Norman Jr.'s shirt. How was his head bent down in the first place to even have the momentum shift him on the ground? How? I'm just trying to figure out how. Bill Haney, Devin Haney, I'm going to need y'all to pay for certified licensed executive protection. And you're going to need more than one at this point. Because every time y'all be lacking, things happen. I'm not advocating violence. I'm just saying, if you're going to have executive protection and security, they have to be on point and they have to do their jobs. So let me run back what happened, and I'm going to tell you what else Devin Haney and them should have done. Brian Norman Jr. was smiling. Brian Norman Sr., his dad, smiling. Devin Haney, smiling. Bill Haney, smiling. All four of these guys were smiling, talking a little bit of talk, a little bit of smack, a little bit of junk to each other, just small talk, regular conversation, minor, nothing major, going back and forth. And then it spent out of control and went left. Why? Because after Devin Haney told Brian Norman Jr., you small, you too small. Like he been telling the last 5 people he done fought besides Ryan Garcia. Yeah, he told Brian Norman Jr. that. Minutes and minutes later, Brian Norman Jr. tried to press Devin using a certain type of body language. And he actually touched Devin Haney with his finger on the chest. You know how a man poke another man on the chest? Highly disrespectful and offensive. But even in that, Devin Haney responded by stepping up and jumping into Brian Norman Jr.'s face. They were already close. They were already in very, very close proximity of each other anyway. But after that, that's when it spent left. That's when it spent left. Because the security guard gripped up both Brian Norman Jr. and Brian Norman Sr., getting in between them. Okay? Now, somebody in my live chat just said that Brian Norman Sr. put his hands on Devin next. I didn't see that part. I've watched that little short clip several times. I didn't see that part, so I'm going to have to go back and watch that and see that. But nonetheless, even if that did happen, the security guard, who to me, when I saw the camera panning around, he looked like he was already mean mugging the Normans and seeming like he was anticipating something like that to happen. Of course, if he's security, that is his job, to be able to act accordingly and quickly. But I'm just trying to figure out something. How come Devin Haney didn't respond to Brian Norman Jr. like he did when he sucker punched that guy at the carnival? I'm talking about the man at the carnival. I don't know if he worked there or not. People said he was an employee. I'm not sure. I can't confirm that. But the point that I'm making is he was at the carnival and he was a civilian. He's not a professional boxer. Devin Haney sucker punched him, stole him, jawed him, swung on him, and he landed too. Some people that's Devin Haney fans try to lie and say he never connected. But he landed that punch. I saw it. But I'm just trying to figure out how come Devin Haney, who thought that the carnival man, that's what we're going to call him. I don't know his name. We're going to call him the carnival man. When he thought that the carnival man disrespected him by using words, he swung on that carnival man. But when Brian Norman Jr. used words and put his finger on his chest, he didn't react the same way. I need to know why. Hey, Bill! I appreciate you baking it up, Bill Haney. Because Bill Haney did try to de-escalate the situation after the security guard got back up off the ground or whatever the case might have been. Okay? He did try to break it up. But I'm just trying to figure out how come every time Bill Haney's back is against the wall, as a gangster, he don't react like a gangster. I'm not advocating for violence. I'm just asking a question. Because Bill Haney and Devin Haney both have had a history, more so Bill Haney than Devin, but they both have had a history on camera with acting gangster and on social media, portraying this tough guy gangster image. Like when Devin Haney jumped and sucker punched the carnival man. Like when Bill Haney told Floyd Mayweather he's 50-0 in the streets. How when Bill Haney was urging security to hold him back after he looked like he was trying to go after Ryan Garcia? Y'all remember that? That part. You remember when Bill Haney told Floyd Mayweather, I'm still in the streets? I'm just trying to figure out why y'all react the way y'all reacting when y'all back against the ropes. That's what I'm asking. I'm not talking about people being, listen, I'm not talking about people being gangsters. I don't want people to be gangsters in boxing. I told y'all that all the time. There's no place for it in boxing. Don't I always tell y'all that? I always say that because there is no place for people being gangster or acting gangster in boxing. It's just no place for it. It actually is disturbing. But my point is, when it's time to move out, they don't do it. Why not? Because they're not gangsters. And so my point really is not to advocate for them to move out. It's for them to stop portraying the gangster image. Please, just stop it. That's all I'm saying. The security did what he was supposed to do by intervening. Now, I think the security officer went a little bit too far by gripping up Brian Norman Jr. the way he did, because it did not warrant that. That exchange between Brian Norman Jr. and Devin Haney didn't warrant that. But once again, when you have homeboy security that's inexperienced, uncertified, and unlicensed, these things can go out of control. Because when you have professional executive protection, their job is to prevent things from happening in chaos. So I'm not talking about the fact that the security guard reacted. I'm just saying the way he reacted was a little bit too egregious in that situation. Because these two guys are professional boxers, right? They're fighters. They're professional boxers. It wasn't going to end in a melee. I mean, Devin looked scared anyway, if you ask me. But that's my personal opinion. That don't have nothing to do with. That don't have nothing to do with what I'm saying. I'm just saying in general. I don't, and he might not have been. I'm not saying he's scared. I'm just saying if you're gonna be a gangster all the way. I said it before. And I've been saying it. So stop acting gangster, please. No, I don't want nobody acting gangster. There's no place in boxing. Please stop it. 80% of the dudes that be on YouTube in boxing, I'm talking about in boxing. I don't know about other in boxing on YouTube are not built like that. So it's no point of portraying the image of being gangster. We don't have to prove anything to the next man. It's not important. If it was all like that, where Brian Norman Jr. and Sr. was an actual threat to the Haneys, they wouldn't have been able to walk up out of there the way that they did. That's all I'm saying. In other words, is if it was about Brian Norman Jr. touching Devin Haney and security got involved, if it was all about that, then what took place should have never happened. But because people want to portray a gangster image, and guess what? I can land that on both sides of the equation. Not with Brian Norman Jr. He don't portray the gangster image. Brian Norman Sr. does. He do stand on business, so I do respect him. But at the same time, the security guard was able to get up, and there were no hands and feet put on him either. So once again, it's no place for the gangster image in boxing. Y'all ain't gonna hear this nowhere else. I'm surprised Devin Haney's channels ain't talking about this. Maybe they are. I don't know. I don't watch them anyway. But people do be sending me stuff. Sometimes I don't care if people send me stuff, and sometimes I'll be like, I don't know why this person's sending me this. They know I don't watch this other person's content. But it's good business. Gives us something to talk about. But that brawl only escalated to the promotion of this fight, if this fight happens. And I have a big if on that. But it happens, it's boxing. But the characters involved are going to make this fight bigger than what it is, as they should. As they should. Now, Dodge J said that there were no blows exchanged because they didn't want to mess up the money. I'm just trying to figure out, even in that though, if you're not trying to mess up the money, then stop acting gangster then. See, that goes to prove it still goes back to my point that I'm illustrating. Okay? Then stop acting gangster if you don't want to mess the money up. That's really where I'm getting at. Thank you, Dodge J, for that. Alley-oop. Stop acting gangster. There's no place in boxing. If you don't want to mess the money up and you want to be professional about it, then be consistent and just be professional about it. Brian Norman Jr. should have never touched Devin Haney's chest with his finger. That was disrespectful. The security guard reacted probably a little bit too egregious, but he did what he was supposed to do, considering the fact that father and son seemed to be a potential threat to Devin Haney. So that's cool. I just want the Haneys to stop acting gangster. I just want Brian Norman Sr. to stop acting gangster. That's really I really want, honestly. Nobody should put their hands on anyone. There is no place for it in boxing. But it happens. Fighters push each other all the time. You remember when Devin Haney pushed Ryan Garcia when they had a little face-to-face? Y'all remember that? Okay, then. Remember when he almost, you might supposed to say he mugged Ryan Garcia on a different occasion. Y'all remember that? Okay. So what I'm saying is if it's cool for Devin Haney to push and mug Ryan Garcia, you can't get all offended when a man put his finger on your chest. It comes with it. And if you don't want anyone putting their hands on you, then please don't put your hands on anyone else. See how easy we can avoid these type of situations? Because guess what? That could have ended very badly yesterday. Because Brian Norman Sr. is on public record. And don't make me pull up the audio, because I'll cue it up right now. He said it's not over between us and the security guard. He gonna get his. You see what I'm saying? So once again, now it's going to levels that exceed boxing when you hear Brian Norman Sr. talk like that. That's a subliminal threat that he sent to the security guard on camera. I'm talking about in the recent video that he did after all that was over. You see what I'm saying? There is no place for it. Good morning, Dory. How you doing, sweetheart? Because it's definitely going to go beyond using fists. But why? It's not necessary. So the angle and perspective I'm coming from is, everybody please stop acting gangster. Please. That's all I'm saying. You know what I'm talking about? Now, with that being said, the fight is going to happen in November, according to all parties involved. But you know I have a big if on that. But here's the great thing about it. If it does happen, it's awesome because this builds up the anticipation. Because neither two of these guys have a proven record of selling major tickets in the ring. So the outside ring performance is going to be more of the anticipation. And because of their styles inside the ring and both of their fathers, it's good. It's good publicity. But I don't want it to spill out on the streets, and I don't want people to get hurt unnecessarily because of this gangster image that's being portrayed by the parties involved. That's all I'm really saying. And what's good for the goose is good for the game. You know what? I'm doing way too much talking. And I got more talking to do because I'm thinking about 90% of me is saying this. So hear me and hear me good. First time ever pop-up live tonight. Come back here 11 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. Tonight. I'm 90% of me is saying yes. So if you get an alert notification or whatever the case might be, a half hour to an hour early, just know we rocking out. Just know we might be rocking out. Pop up live tonight, 11 o'clock Tonight. Tonight. Now, you know, I'm just saying that for those of you who want to come back. We'll see, though. Right after the fight, right after the main event tonight, popping up. Pull up on me. We here. We here. Pull up on me tonight. Man. Live and live in color. We here.